Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's class. So in today's class, I just want to talk about how to draw any Azure architectural drawing, even if it is AWS or GCP. So there is an application that we are going to use, which is called draw.io. So using draw.io, once you launch the application, it's something you can install on your machine. Once you install it, then you can as well install like Azure plugins. So since what I'm trying to do now is to draw an end-tier application with Apache Cassandra, right? So, and this reference architecture shows how to deploy virtual machines and the virtual network configured for an end-tier application using Apache Cassandra on Linux for the data tier, right? So let's start from, we are going to do give it a resource group. Everything should be in a resource group and availability zone. So we're going to draw a networking and load balancing, right, drawing. So as you can see, what I'm trying to do now is I've done the availability zone, and I'm trying to create a virtual network, and that's why I put that. So just because I've installed the Azure plugins, so that's why I can easily search for whatever tool or resource that I need on Azure on that search bar. So if I need to get, now that's a resource group, so I just type resource group in the search bar, and with that I can place it wherever I want to place that resource group. So as you can see, I'm trying to, so now that I search for virtual machine, all I can do is to just copy and place the image of the virtual machine anywhere I want it to be, right? And that's why you can see me copy and pasting, which is part of what we need to do. So if you look at the virtual machine, you can see we have the one for Apache Cassandra database, we have the one for Op Center, and the one for Jumpbox. That's why you can see it in three different phases, right? So all I'm just doing here is to draw it, and I search for the resource that I need and place it wherever I want to place it, which is what the drawing is all about. So with this idea, you can draw any architectural drawing, and as well at the same time, this is not just about a drawing, because when you see people post things on LinkedIn or maybe wherever they post their stuff, you can see the way the flow chart is always going, maybe the direction of the network. So that's the part of the motivation for this video, right? So you can see I'm just trying to get this over with and put all the necessary things, just because, so I need to place it wherever it's needed, and I can just adjust. So using this is a great tool that you can use to draw any architectural drawing. So now I just want to label everything that I've drawn. So all I need is just type them and be placing it where it is needed, because you can't draw without labeling. You need to be able to label and let people know what you have in your drawing. So, but the truth is, your requirement might differ from the architecture described here. If you're drawing something on NT application with Apache Cassandra, right? So, let's just say when you create a virtual network, determine how many IP addresses your resources in each subnet require before you want to start. And you need to also know how the information about your application gateway should be configured. You need to know about your load balancer, your network security group, and the Cassandra itself, and also the Jumpbox don't allow SSH access from the public internet to the VMs that run the application workload. Instead, all SSH access to these VMs must come through the Jumpbox, right? So the consideration you need, like skill set. That's why you see all those virtual machines together. For the web and the business tiers, considering using virtual machine skill set instead of deploying a separate VMs into an availability set, right? So here now, so part of the tip I want to, when using auto scale solution, test it with production level workloads well in advance, because you wouldn't want a situation whereby you've deployed something and when it gets to production it's not giving you the optimum performance that you needed, right? So you also need to check for the subscription limit, because each Azure subscription has default limit in place, including a maximum number of VMs per region, and you can as well increase the limit by filing a support request, right? So speaking of the application gateway, application gateway support fixed capacity mode or auto scaling mode. Fixed capacity mode is useful for scenarios with consistent and predictable workloads, right? And also you need to also consider performance efficiency. Like I said, to get the best performance from Cassandra on Azure VM, there are recommendations that you can follow, like run Apache Cassandra on Azure VMs. I can add the link to the video so that you can check that out. So speaking of availability zones, that's the best resiliency within a single region. If you need even higher availability, consider replicating the application across 2 regions. That will help you. Also, speaking of the Cassandra cluster, for the Cassandra cluster, the failover scenarios depend on the consistency levels used by the application and the number of replicas. For consistency levels and usage in Cassandra, there are some documentation you can read through to get the Microsoft documentation. And speaking of the health probe, application gateway and load balancer both use health probes to monitor the availability of VM instances. Also part of the things you need to consider is the cost optimization. You can always use Azure pricing calculator to do that, and also the virtual machine skill sets. You can also need to consider load balancer, like I said, and most especially security, because you need to secure your resource. Virtual networks are traffic isolation boundary in Azure. VMs in one virtual network can't communicate directly with VMs in different virtual networks. And it's good to also mention that VMs within the same virtual network can communicate unless you create network security groups to restrict traffic. Also the DMZ, which is consider adding a network virtual appliances to create a DMZ between the internet and Azure virtual network. NVA is a generic form or a generic term for a virtual appliance that can perform network related tasks such as firewall, packet inspection, auditing, and custom routing, right? Also, speaking of the encryption, encrypt sensitive data at rest. There is also, if you check the drawing, you can also see DDoS protection. And you see, so I just hope this helps someone that is trying to learn how to draw architectural drawing. This helps you in your journey. Use draw.io. I know Microsoft's advise Visual, but this is also a good one for you too.